morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here in Perth. First of all, I get my two least impressive things out of the way. I'm from Sydney, and I'm a massive Adelaide Crows fan. So let's get that out there, and we can hopefully move on. It is a really interesting space, and it's probably, I'm assuming the mail bus is getting here shortly with all the blokes. We'll go without there, it's stuck in traffic, but let's move on anyway. I guess Joe and I come at this. This is Joe, by the way, Joe Brooks, JWB. You'll never in a million years guess what the W is. I worked it out about 18 years ago.
Winston.
No. It's my favourite middle name I've ever heard.
Wilbur.
Whitey.
What?
Whitey. Anyway, just a little fact there. But Joe and I have been working separately, I guess, for a long time in the school space. We came together for the first time at Loretto Mandeville Hall. My background, I'm a lawyer, actually, but instead of carrying on with law, I started my first business. It was called the Year 12 Video, and it was in Adelaide, if anyone from Adelaide is here. This is back in 1995, my first year of law school. One of these ideas stuck in my head. And I went back to my old school, and we didn't have any video cameras, had no ideas. It was before iMovie, before phones, before all that kind of stuff. We somehow talked my old school, this is a mate of mine and myself, into letting us come in and film the Year 12s in their last year of school. And we filmed the sports day and the muck-up day and the graduation, edited it together with the help of Channel 10 and sold it back to the kids' families for $50 a copy on a VHS tape. And it grew from one school back in 1995 to about 800 schools by the year 2000. And it was a huge amount of filming and it was a huge amount of editing, and my law degree I finished, but it wobbled off track and I never actually got onto it, but for that I'm eternally grateful. But it did teach us some unbelievable lessons. And what we were doing, even though we didn't know, was we were creating content. And we were helping schools to get across this traditionally enormous gap which schools still battle with now. Parents battle with now. I'm a parent now, I have two kids, 12-year-old daughter Matilda, who goes to a school in a similar position like this in Sydney. My son, who goes to a school in Rose Bay. And Matilda will go off to Canberra for the camp, and she'll be away, and apparently she'll have met the Governor-General and, you know, jumped off the top of this and swum here and done all this sort of stuff, and get back after 3 or 4 days in Canberra of unbelievable stuff that the school had put an enormous amount of effort into, and she would come back in and be exhausted, and I was like, how was it? And any parents in the room probably know what she's going to say next. Hey Matilda, how was the trip? Good. What'd you do, Tills? Stuff, nothing, don't remember. Shut up, I'm watching my iPad. What we found a way to do is how to communicate to the parents. Show the parents the exact experience that these kids were having, which was huge. And we were doing it from a commercial point of view. The school wasn't paying us, basically the kids' parents were. But the schools in particular, one in Adelaide called Walford School in Adelaide, really, I went in and pitched the idea, we'll produce a CD-ROM. We've moved from VHSs to CD-ROMs. In 2000 we made a CD-ROM for Walford, which showed a real vast array of different events that they had throughout the year. I was working off the idea that kids would get their yearbook and 300-page thing that probably you guys hate, lots of you hate it. But the kids really look for photos of themselves. And the parents look for, where's my kid? And so we sort of found a different way of doing that, and before Facebook and before Instagram we were tagging people, and so people could find the photos of themselves on their CD-ROM and the videos and all this kind of stuff. And we're really making more effective this ability of communicating to families, or prospective families, what this school is about. Because like in Adelaide, as I guess in Perth, there's aggressive marketing around a dwindling number of kids. And we were seeing schools close, we were seeing schools become co-ed that had been single-sex for a long time. Really interesting stuff going on, and some has worked and some hasn't. There's been some girls' schools closed and that kind of thing, but it became important to talk to a waiting list, because when I was a kid I just got sent there. Troy, you're going to Westminster School. It was a great school, I'm glad I did, but I had absolutely no say in it. These days the kids do have a say in it. The kids are a big role in playing in which school do I go to. But we also know, so Joe and I have done a lot of prospectus type enrolments campaigns, really great ones. We've also done some really successful capital appeal campaigns. raising money for a new gym, a new swimming pool, a new arts wing, a new science wing, whatever it is. Sometimes $20 million more. And what we found is that the closer the community is together, the closer that they know the school and what's going on, not only do they give more when it comes around to a new gym or whatever, but they also give more often because they're connected. So one of my charities that we talked about before is called the Real Men Project, and we work with boys and their dads, and schools have this real fear around social media because all the horrible things can happen and do happen, and that's absolutely it. But being a small business person, I have been for 20 years, the truth is, and you guys know this from a school's perspective, the truth is that social media is actually a huge part of business moving forward. It's not only something to be feared, but something that's necessary and part of successful work in the future. One of my best mates is a senior executive at IBM, and he's on a huge contract, sickening contract. But one of the key things in his contract is a certain number of Twitter posts per day. This is a guy that's basically an accountant. You'd hate me saying that, but it's true. So today we're going to talk about all this sort of stuff. We're going to talk a little bit. This is a massive area. We're only going to I'm going to try and explain as well as I can. If I'm doing it too simply, please throw something at me, or insults works fine. We'll move on. But this is me. And I guess what I want to make my point is that I was a lawyer. That was my plan when I was a kid at school. I absolutely wanted to be a lawyer. I did law school, but the world got in the way and I ended up doing other things. I made a film and wrote a book about my daughter being born, which is called Being Dad. And it's a book about pregnancy from the bloke's perspective. And we were right on the cutting edge then of Facebook and social media in about 2007, 2008. We've sold around 400,000 copies of the film and about 50,000 copies of the book with a really successful online digital campaign, and that's all it was. And that comes down to content. That comes down to being interesting, telling stories that get it out there. The next best-selling book next to Being Dad in the parenting for blokes category, which is Skinny, is 55 copies from a much better book than mine. I think called From Here to Paternity by another mate of mine called Sasha Molitritz, but had no effort behind selling what he was doing. It's a great book, but didn't do any of the other stuff. And here up here is you see some of the stuff that Joe and I have done, the graphic stuff and the strategy for the printed materials and things, which it's interesting, it has swung a little bit because 10, 15 years ago we were talking to schools who didn't see themselves as businesses. They didn't see themselves as brands. They saw themselves as schools, that's it. So I'm in there talking about brands and talking about all this sort of stuff, the principles and things. We're going, hey, this is a school. You don't understand our philosophies and our traditions and our caring Christian community at this place. What do we need a CD-ROM for? What do we need a website for? We've got our printed material. It's swung. And often the argument is on my side of the fence is easier to make than Joe's when he's talking about prospectuses and printed materials. But the truth is they all have a role to play. They all have a benefit, and if you're cutting off one, you're making a mistake. We'll talk about that later on. So this is me. Part of my promotion for the Being Dad film in the UK, I dressed up in a pregnancy empathy belly and walked around the city for a day. And this is back in YouTube about 2009. We had 3 million views. And some of the stuff you can do, and it was jokes, and it was funny, and it was just interesting, but it was telling the story of our thing explains to men what it is to be pregnant. And the other stuff doesn't do that. He'll get a kick out of it, it's his type of thing. But since that, I guess I've focused on the bit that used to frustrate me is when Joe and I would collaborate and we would make these amazing films about a school in Sydney. They would drop a huge amount of money and the film would be a day in the life of this school, and we'd have different things and all sorts of cool stuff happening, and we would put it on a DVD-ROM or whatever, and we would put it on the front cover of this amazing looking prospectus. And I have in the honest to goodness depths of my heart a fear that the DVDs went in the bin. And one of the smartest things anyone ever said to me is he said, most of this stuff is headed for the bin. And the quicker you realise that, the better you are. Because if we don't make it interesting, we don't make it engaging, we don't get our point across, there's not much point in saying it. So the trick of what we're about to talk today is how can we get your messages told so that people hear them? Because that's the point. Back in our old days when we were making the films, we'd have this lovely winding arc of a story that would go for 10 minutes or something like that, and at the end it would be book a tour with the principal and you'll love it. These days you got 6 seconds, is the fact. You got 6 seconds to grab someone. So if you've got all your important information winding at the end of this story, you miss it. And the quicker that you miss it, the quicker that people bail, Facebook goes, that's not a very interesting video, no one cares, we'll bury it. We'll talk about that in a second. So that's me and Joe. I'm going to run through this stuff and see how we go. If it's boring, sing out. If it's not, cool. But websites is a massive part of your strategy here. This is pretty much on first touch of thinking about a school they're going to send their kid to. The website is the point of first call. Now, we've heard about, from Margot a second ago, words like pixels. I'm going to talk about them in a second. Just quite savvy what you said. But the website is a really great opportunity for you to immediately send across a message about what your school is and have something sink in, but also capture the details of the people that visit so that we can do some really cool Facebook stuff later on. There's details changing around that, but I'll talk to you about how we can fix that. It's no problem, and it's certainly not a problem yet. SEM. Who's heard the word SEM? Who has any idea other than some weird spam email that comes around every now and then what that actually means? Search engine marketing. Now I put a picture up here of the Canadian drug cheat from like the 1984 Olympics or something as a way to try and explain what SEM is. So I'm going to use this analogy for the next few minutes, but SEM is getting into the Olympics, getting where you want to be by paying for it. Spending money with Google, spending money with Facebook, spending money with all the different types of places to get your search terms to the top. SEM, M for marketing. Search engine marketing is a form of internet marketing that involves the promotion of websites by increasing their visibility in search engine results. Now we had a bit of a look around in the WA schools. I don't know who's here, and there's certainly no shame in this, but there's no one doing it particularly well at all. Which is actually great. There's a real opportunity to do it better. Now, search engine marketing means you pay for it. Remember, like, what's his name, the athlete? SEO is search engine optimization. Now, this is going to the gym. This is doing the hard yards and improving where your website ranks in searches and things by doing the hard work. So, SEM is paying. Go to the top. You see the little ad, little thing that pops up, or if you search for a school or a hotel or whatever, the first 7 are ad. Again, in WA, it's not very prevalent. It's around, but it's not very prevalent, which is good again. It means it's cheaper. But search engine optimization means doing the hard work, and we're going to talk about what that looks like. Marketing discipline focused on growing visibility in organic search engine results. Creative stuff, articles, videos, sharing, linking, connecting things, hard work. But the truth is, there's rules to this. Most people will go SEO, I don't know. The truth is that it's actually not that hard. There's some rules. Google is trying to decide, where do I send Troy's search? What's Troy looking for? So they're trying to choose amongst all you guys and all the other school marketing people around all of Perth, which one do I put at the top? So Google has to work out which one is which. Who's important, who's not. Who's good, who's not. And they do that by what's called an algorithm. The more things you're linking out to, the more things you're being linked back to, pushes you up. The more articles on various topics, connection with keywords and Google AdWords pushes you up. We'll talk about that a bit later. But that's SEO and SEM. Has everyone got that? Okay. And there's digital advertising. Digital advertising is enormous. It's a huge industry. It works. Who here actually spends a bit of money on digital advertising at the moment? Most. Half. Surprise. Probably the other half is just don't put their hands up. Most people do. And what it does is makes your stuff more visible. Stuff that would otherwise not get seen gets seen. It's kind of like when you have Telstra and you have 10 gigabytes of downloads on your phone. It's an artificial thing that phones made up, or Telstra made up, or whatever it is, so that you pay a bit extra. back in the early days of Facebook, you would put something out and everyone would see it. Now what happens is you put it on Facebook and a small selection of people see it, and you can widen that by either having great content or paying to widen the scope. That's digital advertising. And digital advertising spend in combination with good content is not being done in WA, which again is a great opportunity. So this is social media landscape. We really do focus in on Facebook, Instagram. What's interesting is Twitter has kind of a bit of a platform in WA, which is quite different from everywhere else. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram are kind of where it's at, with a little bit of LinkedIn work that most of you guys are doing as well. There's all these different things, but they're the main ones. These are figures from last year, but they're expecting this year the internet digital advertising to reach $205 billion this year. This is an industry that didn't exist 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's a big industry and something that's well worth thinking about. What's interesting as well is it's doubled worldwide in the past 2 years, which again is massive. In terms of an industry, it's huge and getting bigger quicker. Who's heard of the Iconic? A good reaction in this room. Some other ones like, oh, okay. Now we talk about pixels. Some of the Facebook, we're going to talk about Facebook because that's where every one of you is pretty much. There's huge scope to do it better, and there's a lot of things that you aren't doing that are available to do that will triple, quadruple your walk-through traffic. Now, tracking pixels are part of a fairly gross feeling part of Facebook that when I talk to you, you're all going to be like, oh, really? Some of you might already know. Has anyone been on the Iconic website? It's a fashion retailer, online retailer, based in Sydney. You go on there and you can buy a new pair of shoes or a new jacket or whatever. And I think in Sydney they'll get them to you the same day. In Perth, I don't know how it works, but I'll send them over on camels or something. Yeah. What happens though when you go to the Iconic? If you've been on the website, you might go find a pair of shoes, or you might find a jacket that you like, and you look at it, and you go, I don't think I will, and you leave. You go back on Facebook later on that day. Has anyone seen that exact jacket following around desperately for the rest of your life? Now, that's not a very neat way to do it, and I'm not suggesting that anyone does that. Like, come to our school, come to our school, come to our school. But the truth is the technology exists to do a really clever thing. So with the Facebook pixel, what we're talking about is on the Iconic page, on each page or however they've structured it, there is a pixel, a dot, 1 by 1 spot that is invisible, that when you go there, it grabs your information. Yeah. You don't have to have Facebook open, you just be looking there, and when you open Facebook, it goes, I know exactly where you were, bang, there goes the picture. It's because you went on the website. Now you think about it from a school perspective, when someone visits your website, we're not talking about Google Analytics where it's like 326 people went there, and as owners of the school website, you can't see that it was Troy Jones and he looked, you can see, you can connect with them on their Facebook page. So once they go to your website, maybe they go to the sports department, or they go to the arts department, or they go to the boarding department, or they go to wherever they go, you can produce content for specifically what they're interested in and put it on their Facebook page without them liking you on Facebook. And if the content is strong enough and subtle enough, you know that they've already been on your website on the boarding house page or on the whatever it is page. You have that detail. That allows you to get content to those people straight away. Before we were talking about email addresses. This has turned out to be, in the mystery of all this stuff, email addresses have ended up being the #1 currency online. The most important thing that you can get from someone is their email address. And it has something to do with Facebook. It's not EDMs. It's not emails that you're talking to about. It's a thing called lookalike audiences or custom audiences, which we'll talk about in a second. Which is a super freaky part of Facebook paid advertising. So get email addresses is the point. If you're at an expo, someone's coming in to visit, get a business card, get their email addresses and have a functional database of email addresses because they're going to come into their own in a second. So retargeting is a form of online advertising. After someone's left your website, you can stay in touch with them and that you've got the heads up knowing that they're already thinking about you. Like that. We've seen that, right? That is not difficult to do at all. Let's skip through because we're running out of time in a way. Lookalike audience is the face melter of Facebook tricks, I think. So you could give me 500 emails. All they are is emails. People that have come to your stand at an expo or whatever. You've got their email addresses and you've thought carefully about these guys are interested in this kind of thing. You can give me a list of those email addresses. I can plug them into Facebook. First step, I can, just with their email address, put your content on their Facebook page just with their email address. Which is cool. What's super cool is that you can give, if I have that number of email addresses, I can go to Facebook and say, see these 500 people, Facebook can see who they are. You can't. What you can say is, I want you to put them through the NutriBullet of Facebook. And I want you to find out what is the essence and the DNA of the people that are putting their business cards in my bowl at the stand. The dresses, the things they like. This isn't the 35 to 39 women who like pregnancy stuff that you've probably done before. This is hardcore, extensive details around things they're interested in, things they're clicking on, things they're liking. So you give them these 500 email addresses and they'll come back surprisingly quickly, giving you the ability to expand that group of people up to 10% of the population of this country with exactly the same DNA, likes and fabric to their experience as the people that you know are interested in. So you can take your audience from those 200 and find really similar people in a much bigger audience. And what's amazing is you can do that internationally. So they'll give you up to 5–10% of the population of China. In China. 5% of the population of New Zealand in New Zealand. You can then geo-target that around your efforts which you're doing to promote things to South Korea or whatever you're doing, so that you can be looking for parents with the same likes and interests as the ones that put the business card in your bowl. How's everyone feel about Facebook?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
One of the things with the lookalike audiences, I mean, I had a question once, if you've got your parent email addresses and you uploaded them to the back end and did a lookalike audience, we will eventually have to disclose that we were using those emails for them, but not yet.
And not foreseeable, there's no rules.
But no. But interestingly, that's been a question that schools have asked, that, you know, because we have, when someone enrolls at the school, you say that you're using it for such and such a purposes. So I've made a lookalike audience out of it, but I did have some schools ask me what are the privacy ramifications. I don't advertise to the current parents because they're already here, but I've created a lookalike audience.
Yeah.
How do you sit with that, the moral ground of that?
Look, I don't even think it's unethical.
No, well, I'm of that view.
I think it's a school by school proposition, but I don't think, it's a great question, and it's a question for now. But what we're really doing is I don't see this as much different to the old version. I remember the schools we were working with in Adelaide 10 years ago that have postcodes. And you're working out people are based on postcodes, and you're trying to base information on who's interested in what I'm doing, how do I speak to them. I have an issue with it when it gets aggressive and repetitive and hassly. When it's hey, this is something you may be interested in, I think that's fine, but I'm probably the wrong guy to ask.
No, and I'm the wrong person to ask too, but I was asked that question and I went,
Look, no one. The truth is, you don't know who these people are. You don't know where they are. You don't know anything about it. What you know is that you can put your content on their Facebook page, even though they've never heard of you before. And they're going to see ads there anyway. It's going to be an ad for Virgin, or it's going to be an ad for you know, whatever it is. Yeah, I can't. Why not be an ad for your school? Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up to that? Because that does concern me. I don't know if I was going to ask you that because or not, but you know, I've thought about it much because we haven't spoken about the parents email interviews. That's just a bit awkward. But when I was looking at creating a lookalike audience the other day, you can do it with the data on Facebook where it has
Yeah.
their engagement
Yeah.
page.
Yeah.
And I thought, and that's most that out here. I thought, not all of them. But I thought, well, since those parents have already engaged with Facebook, they've given the data that they want to use
Yeah.
with Facebook. I can actually create a lookalike audience based on the engagement on my page.
What I'm doing is I'm giving you the. Sorry.
And
Yeah.
then extend that to or whatever I might be doing.
Yeah. Look, what I'm doing is giving you on the spectrum of opportunity. I'm giving you ideas of the scope of what you can do. And the scope of it comes all the way back to not doing it. Or doing it a bit, or doing it a lot, or doing it full on. The idea, though, is that this all falls part of this idea of digital advertising, which is much more comprehensive than what you're currently doing. And if the idea is, how do we connect with our old girls, or old boys, or old scholars, whatever they're called in Perth, if we're trying to connect with potential parents, you're trying to connect with existing parents, you're trying to do those sort of things, there's a number of real benefits beyond enrolments. There might be a lot of people that are interested in the material that you guys are putting out, they just haven't found it yet. They might be interested in what you're talking about, but you haven't found a way of doing it. So it's a matter for each school to work out, and there is a lot of scope to do it differently. I'll move on, but we can talk about it afterwards if you like. So we did that. Content development, that's my daughter, by the way, in Kambala. This is a huge part of it. I was sitting with a school this afternoon, and they initially were talking about certain things, and they had these sort of ideas of what they were interested in and what was interesting to the others about them. As soon as we pressed and pushed a little bit, out came this ton of really great stuff. Really great ideas that the school was looking to forge ahead with, and ideas about the future and who they were and how they fitted. And my experience, every school has got amazing stories within it that they know. If I'm talking to the marketing person at this school, they'll go, oh, well, this happened, there's this amazing thing last year where this family fell on hard times, or blah, 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 whatever. This girl's in this swimming team, and that girl's in that gymnastics, or whatever it might be. But they're never told. Now, the idea of this kind of format is that you can have lots of great stories that look and sound fantastic and really speak the ethos, which for me takes it out of this scary space and into, these are just really great stories that we're trying to talk to the mums who'll see it and go, oh gosh, I love that. You know, that's exactly why I love this school. Or I went there and that's exactly what my experience was like. So content development, which is, if you remember I started my story about what I was doing 20 years ago, that was what it was. A lot of storytelling. A lot of finding out what's going on. Now, content development means that another big issue with Facebook is that it really, and it's getting worse in terms of how their algorithm is changing. But if your stuff is not interesting to your audience, you might be thinking you have 3,000 followers on Facebook and you're thinking it's great because I'll put out this post about the fair or the thing or whatever and 3,000 people will see it. Depending on your connectivity rate, 20 people may be seeing it. 30 people may be seeing it. And what we find is that schools tend to talk to one content pillar. We talk a lot about something, little bits of other things, but the truth is the people that follow you on Facebook have a range of different things they're interested in. Some people are interested in boarding, some people aren't. Some people are interested in cricket, some people aren't. And if you keep talking about general kids at school, you're going to hit one little channel of your followers and Facebook is going to start to go, the other people don't care about this stuff. So the idea is, and the thinking is, have at least 6 different pillars. At least 6. History, sports, teachers, but it can be more than that. It could be competition or love or teamwork or whatever. 6 different pillars that really match what you think those people are listening to you about. And by regularly hitting those points, you're regularly hitting all of your audience. Which means Facebook goes, they're talking to everybody. Everybody's interested, not every time, but over the week, you're hitting everybody. That's really important. So to have a structured approach to what you're doing and why you're doing it means that you have a much better engaged audience, like I said before, that means you'll do better in enrolments and you will definitely do better at capital appeals. Definitely. Because the schools that are closer to their communities get more money more often and more enrolments more often. And in terms of wait list management, I know it's an issue in Perth, but it's also an issue in Sydney. I go and talk to schools and they say, no, we have a huge waiting list, Troy. We don't need any of this stuff. We're the best school in Sydney with our caring Christian community, which is very unique, which everybody seems to have. But that approach doesn't work when there's 4 times as many kids on lists than there are in real life. Because Jimmy is at this school, this school, this school, and this school. And there's only one Jimmy. And he'll tend to go either where Dad went, or Mum went, or which school did particularly well in Year 12 that last year, which is a ridiculous way to pick a school. The more, and I bet we all agree, and that's a lottery, who does well this year and who did well last year, and what's that got to do with what's going to happen in 10 years anyway. So the idea of communicating a broad base of things to your community has got heaps of different benefits. Enrolments, applications, but keeping the people in enrolments there and not going to the school down the road because they did well last year. My company, I have a couple of different companies and charities and things that I do. And one of my film and video company, we do all the Jeep ads. We do all the Jeep content. Which doesn't have much to do with anything, but it's a bit of a break for a second. The way that we do it though is really important for schools, because we've been doing this Jeep stuff for about 10 years or so. We did all the, you bought a Jeep and you need a bigger boat, all those kind of ads and whatever for a long time. But the trick is, back in the old days, there would be 3 brand ads. You do big $1 million ads like the Mad Men TV era. That was not that long ago. You would spend your $5 million or your $10 million or your $2 million or 500 grand or 20 grand. A couple of big things. And then a little bit and that's about all we've got. Our approach is completely different because of this social media thing. By approaching it from a month-to-month approach, by having a team partnership with a school or with Jeep, we say we're not going to do 3 ads and whatever. All of this content is important. And what's amazing is, as we were talking about this afternoon from a different school, these ones are the ones where all of the value is. Internal communications, which for Jeep means communication between the marketing director and the car salesman. The new car's coming out this month. It used to be a 1-page email and a picture, and it's going to be great, and about 2% of people read it. It's probably not much different to what you guys do in terms of sending stuff out. Just text, and hopefully people will read it. I'm not going to, but I hope they will. Once we switch that into videos from the marketing person that goes to the thing, and through the email processes, which I'm sure most of you use, you can see who opens it. You can see how many people are opening it, how long they're watching it for. And through video for Jeep and for schools that we do work with, the same approach, instead of spending and burning all this money up here, concentrating on that internal communication. Because with schools, we all know, that's where most of the talk is Saturday mornings at hockey practice, at hockey games, between the mums. You heard what's going on, whether it's true or not, that's where it happens. And the other part is behind the scenes. And this is where this all gets interesting for me. That's what parents want to know. There's the laminated, handsome stuff, which is super important and it has its place, a really important place. But parents go, yeah, I know, but that's the marketing. What does the Year 10 think? I want to know what the kid in Year 10 thinks of the school. Is she being bullied? Is she happy? Has she got good friends? Is the teacher's good? Blah, blah, blah. That's behind the scenes. What's the stories that tell the real story behind your brand? By we take, I don't know how to do the highlighter thing, but we do, this is our world here. This stuff. Making a lot of content, finding out what people are looking for, and all of a sudden, instead of it being a one-way megaphone, this is a 2-way conversation. You will learn what people are interested in. You will learn what people think of your school, because those are the things that succeed. And you start to evolve your view of what actually our school is, instead of this Christian caring community, which it can be. But what else is it? That's when you get interaction, and that's when you get really clever stuff. Because as you learn, and we call it A/B testing, this worked, that didn't, why, work out which is best and what happens, and you eventually start to work out, this is when you post stuff. This is what we talk about on Thursday afternoons. Content. Here's a bit of a snapshot as well of the kind of different things that you can be doing. Now I know the huge part of this is you're all going, I have got no time. Sounds awesome, I'm not going to do any of it. But it's interesting to know what the thoughts are. All of these different things. Facebook posts, stories, videos, questions, communication, ideas, tricky stuff, fun stuff, interesting, behind the scenes, honest things. A lot of schools that I've worked with have come to me and said, Troy, we have a problem with Instagram. We gave it to our year 10s after so much stress. We were going to let them have the keys to the Instagram. We thought the sky was going to fall down. They were going to post pictures of whatever they were going to post pictures of. It was going to be a nightmare. What happened was they didn't post anything. The kids post 2 photos of their lunch and they go, oh, I'm not doing it. And a lot of that's because there was no leadership. It's like an English teacher walking into an English class and saying, okay guys, write an essay. About one. If you say, right, this week we split the week up into 6 categories. This week is friends or blah or whatever. These are the categories. Here's the thing we want you to take photos today of this. It needs to be in by then. Tomorrow will be this, and we want the rest of them done by the end of the week. And they've got a structure. You're turning your students into content providers and content developers, and it matches that idea of what we said before. It's behind the scenes, it's honest, it's real. And it's a really great way to get the whole community together is people, the kids, providing their view of what this is because it's authentic and it's honest. Data can also help. Things we know, we'll talk about later, we don't have time to talk about it. My number one bit of advice though, with all your content, whatever you do, I see so many schools, and I have a look around some of the Perth schools, and so many of them are just, there's the sports day. Next, you know, here's 6 kids on stage. I covered it, good. Every piece of content needs an aha moment. Something in it that's meaningful. Every time. Everything needs an aha moment. Which means it's not that back here, kids stand around underneath the tree at the sports day. I don't know if that's going to work. It's going to play. Anyway, this is a great example. I know this isn't. I'm going back to Jeep because it's an easy one we can all laugh at. But this was the first ever Jeep ad we did. And the idea was, this whole ad comes down to one look that the guy gives his wife when she says, I bought a Jeep. Does anyone remember this ad from a long time ago? It doesn't work. Anyway. She says, I bought a Jeep, and the guy goes, like, surprise. And then looks at her like, oh, she's still hot. She's still hot. It's 1 microsecond of a look on his eyes like that. That's right.
What did you end up getting?
I bought a Jeep.
I bought a Jeep.
I bought a Jeep.
You bought a...
Yes, Michael. I bought a Jeep.
That one. Corga, awesome. You're awesome. This one. One look.
You bought a Jeep.
Yeah, I bought a Jeep.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
I'm an awesome dad. This one, again, an amazing quick look at Facebook stuff in Perth, and it's overwhelmingly mums who are Facebook fans. Would we agree? I think it's because we're talking to the mums. This was a great example. We did one for Jeep, and it had this famous Richmond football player, and Jeep sponsored Richmond. Now this one is an interesting one. We gave the video to Richmond. They sent it out to their supporters. It was the single most successful campaign that Jeep ever did in Australia. But what I think is amazing is the aha moment in this. Have a look, see if you can pick out what it is.
So I get up at 5:20. Just part of my life, I suppose, the fitness, and I'm still doing. I think that's the important thing. A lot of people do ask me, oh, I don't want to be rude, but how old are you? And I think, well, I hadn't thought anything of it because I've never stopped doing the work that I do. You put your head down and you're going to go for it, give it everything you've got. You don't make it, that's not failure. Not having a go's failure. I say, just commit yourself and don't be thinking, damn it, I wish I could have it all over again because I didn't give it my best shot. Go hard, don't hold back. 10 little words. If it is to be, it is up to me. And I want you to put a big circle around the word me, because that's where it all comes back to. It's you.
Tommy Hayfield, anyone got an aha moment in there? You got to be honest to tell me, but most of you saw it. Anyone? Anyone?
And the slogan comes on.
Nope. I'll give you a clue. It's sex related.
And his budgies coming out.
His abs.
Oh.
70, 80-year-old man comes out and goes, whoa. The video, the ad tells all the stories of do it, don't hold back and whatever, but there's something in it that makes you go, ooh. Remember that? Something. Make sense? Digital advertising, I'm not sure how we're going for time, we're sort of running pretty badly out, but digital advertising, geo-locking is a really interesting thing. I mentioned on before as well. You can put a fence around events. I could put one around here today, around this room, and had people that come into this space, if they look at their Facebook when they're in here, they'll get a content piece from me because they're in this space. I can do it overseas. I can time it so that it goes at a specific time to that specific place overseas. We did a really great campaign with a Noosa seafood company in Hong Kong, and put a lock around the mall where they were doing a taste testing thing. And as soon as they get into this specific area, we start hitting them with content. And the sales were through the roof. Getting creative about these things, having moments, having things. I'm lucky, my girlfriend back at home is an actress and singer and a dancer, and we do a couple of bit of work with her with schools. And it's around musical theatre and performance and art and that kind of stuff. And there's certain times when communities do come into a school, and there's certain times, like at a school musical or performance or a school fair or a sports day or something like that, you have got the ability to do connections between online and real life. And it doesn't have to be super clever, but it can produce that kind of content, get people to check in, get people to like your Facebook stuff, which again drives that next time you post something, more people see it. And the more people that see it, the more people that share it, which means more people see it in general. So thinking creatively about how you connect maybe a billboard that you're doing with some activation. And we've got heaps of examples of that kind of thing. We'll talk about that later if we have time. But being clever about the range of media that you've got is really functional. And it's cool because you can do really things that work, and you can see that it works, and you can take it to your boss and you can go, look at these numbers, man. And we talk about funnels. Right out. This is the Troy Jones theory. This is a funnel. Now, traditionally you'll look at Google Analytics and you'll see how many people came to the website after you run an ad. You run an ad, you do a billboard, you do something like that, and you'll see, well, there was a bit of a spike there if you're on top of it. Some people came to our website after that, great. Awesome. This is my favourite term, is the lower funnel activities. Lower funnel activities, or LFAs, I know you guys like your acronyms, LFAs, is when they come to where's the contact details, where are they, what's the phone number, what's the email address, looking for, getting in touch. That's where stuff starts to get interesting. Website, great. If you've got a pixel working, you've grabbed them, you can start communicating to them there. Lower funnel activities, you know they're at the point of thinking I'm going to come and have a tour, which we know from our conversion rates that when they meet the headmaster or headmistress or whatever it is, you're pretty home and host. Tours. You can see how many people come into the front door and get a tour on the Thursday, the school tour. And level 4 is the principal meeting. That's when, statistically, that's when you've got it. They meet the principal, it's over. So if we run ads, we're starting to develop content. We'll develop content. We have 6 different pieces. really fun things. We can start to do the statistics on where does it get us in the funnel. Maybe 100 people go to the web traffic. Okay, great. Of them, 20 people go for the lower funnel activities, which is fantastic. 3 people come in for a tour, and 1 person signs up. Unbelievable day. You might have 1,000 people go to the web traffic, some stunt you pull, but no one goes any further. So having a think about this funnel where the ultimate thing, if I'm selling Jeeps, it's the guy buying the Jeep, as opposed to coming for a look around the yard, as opposed to your lower funnel activities, as opposed to just looking at the website. All good, but you really want them down the bottom. So by doing the content smartly, you can start to work out which things cause sales. This is pretty brutal school terminology, if you know what I mean. Which bit of advertising had the biggest bang for buck with a kid signing up? And what levels did it do? So by looking at those kind of things, you really can see who's doing what. This is what we do as a first step, because the issue for school administrators, marketing people like yourselves, you don't have time to do this. You're doing the school. Let me guess, the life is that you've got a week to do your stuff. Heaps of time goes on the school newsletter. Heaps of time goes in keeping up to date with everything that's going on. You might get half a day a week or something like that at best to do social media things, maybe. The question is, by looking at the whole picture with the SEO we talked about, if you remember before, the Facebook stuff, the pixels, the content, the pillars, all the bits and pieces, look at the whole thing we call a digital pulse. What is going on at my school? What are the bits? What's happening? Where are people going? Where are people joining up? Where are people falling apart? Where are the bottlenecks? Where does it fall apart? Most of you will have these things: web and mobile, search and social, email, CRM, and data. Now this process that we do called this digital pulse is exactly to go through all of those different parts and come up with exactly where your holes are, where your gaps are, where you're doubling up and you're wasting your time, things that you're doing that are wasting time. Spending a day a week on something that's giving you very little, those lower funnel activities. This is the kind of stuff that we do. Not that this is an ad or anything, but this is the kind of.
I told you about that.
No, I know, and that's why I'm not doing it. But these are the sort of things that we do for organisations, schools, that help them understand exactly what is the mess that we've created that I'm trying to lord over. Because ultimately, what you might want to consider doing is recognising that this stuff is important, and that you don't have the time to do it properly, and no one person can. So at some point, you need help, where your job can be, I'm managing this process because at the moment we're not doing it, we don't have time, and we're losing opportunities as a result. So this kind of stuff is what's important. We call it an audit, and I would suggest that would be the first kind of a thing that you might want to start talking your principal or your business manager into doing. And the best part is this is very, very business manager friendly. They get a report, and they get the details and the numbers and a score out of 100, and here's how we're going, and here's how other schools are going. You get a score out of 100. Here are the problems that you've got, and here's the structure of which ones we think you should tackle first, because we know you don't have endless budgets. An audit is a really, really great place to start. Not that I'm selling them to you or anything, but this is the kind of thing. This is the kind of thing you should be looking for in terms of an audit. A really simple breakdown in each of these different areas: functionality, navigation, errors, error handling, all that sort of stuff. So you can come back and go, gosh, we suck here. We're losing people here. Present to a business manager and say, look, man, here's what we've looked at, here's what we've got, here's how we're going to go about it. This kind of thing is an important way to get your business manager understanding this stuff is losing money. This is one we did for a school in Asia not long ago, but it shows you different things, different competitors. Here's what other schools, here's our competitors, not you guys, but if some other school came to me, we would produce and look at their 3 or 4 nearest competitors, who they consider their nearest competitors. Look at their website, their social media, their channels, when they're posting, how they're posting, what they're doing, how they're linking. all that stuff for the whole bit, so you can start to go, here's what the other schools are doing, and here's where we're falling over and we can do better. So this seems like a massive mess, and it is, but given to someone who's got an idea of this kind of thing, you can really quickly get a handle on where am I falling down, and then start to remedy those things. All this kind of stuff, skip through it. Because we've run out of time, I'll talk too much. Here's my favourite thing. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And Margot touched on this at the start, and I think it's a really important point. You can compete, and you have to compete. But there are ways in which you can collaborate and work together and push the needle in terms of the overall professionalism, the awareness, the scope of the success, and in truth, put the right kids in the right schools. We don't want to trick anyone. We want to just get our name out there so that people that's supposed to come to our school come to our school. So by working together, and that might mean collaborating with someone like us, or it might be collaborating together, or it might be some of you guys coming to us and saying we all want to work together on making all of our stuff better. I think that sums it up really well. Because this is a big task. And together, you might have a shot at doing it. And that's the end. So what we do, sorry Margaret, is, I was just going to say, is we've got about, I was watching that clock, that's about right, like we're thinking maybe 10 minutes worth of questions or specific things that you guys might have, and this almost never works because everyone is.
And then I've got lots of things to say, because I made lots of notes.
Oh, great. Well, does anyone have any questions for either me or Joe that they might? Joe, do you want to come up here?
Go, Joe. Look like you've done something. Good job. Ask Joe.
This isn't my world. This is his world.
So Joe is the overall. JWB is his Joe, and this is his business. So in general, his is the strategy, the graphics, the design. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask if there's any schools over in the eastern states that are doing things really well that you could maybe name to us, so we could go and have a little bit of a look at their websites and their social media sites and see, or not really.
Yeah, I can. The truth is, Melbourne does things well in terms of search engine marketing. They'll advertise. So schools in Melbourne advertise a lot. They'll have trams, they'll have billboards. Joe does some of the best of all that sort of stuff, and Melbourne does great search engine marketing. So you can see things like, I would suggest if you were to come to someone like me and say, Troy and Joe, can we please do an audit of our school? It would be smart for you to go, a similar school to us in Melbourne is St. Catherine's or something. Not only next door and around the corner is this and that, because there could be lessons that you can learn from Melbourne that you might not otherwise get. Good example, we work with a school called Corowa. We're about to start. They looked at it a couple, and one of the ones they were super interested in was Melbourne Girls Grammar. Wesley College, I think, generally do a good job of most things they do. But the truth is that there's so much scope. Everyone's doing it very baby. Sydney, you can type in best school Sydney and nothing comes up. Could say two things, I guess. There's no good schools in Sydney, but Perth is very similar. There's very, very simplistic first step stuff where there's a great opportunity for a handful of schools to just go, you know what, this is us. We're working with Corowa, this girls' school in Melbourne, and we're going to be giving presentations to the girls where the first half of the presentations are cyber safety and make sure you protect yourselves and blah, 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 blah. But roll into, but now we've said that and we get that, we're going to work together so that your posts are safe and cool and work. We're going to teach you how to tag things, we're going to teach you how to do things because it's in your interests to step out of school and know it. You might be able to start a business today in dog walking or babysitting and start using this stuff right now. I think that's part of the role of the school. To hide behind the, we're going to teach kids about social media by telling them don't do bad things. It's telling half of the story. And there's a real opportunity to go, this is a huge part of their future and we want them to learn about it really well. My daughter's school does it terribly. They ban it and all that happens is it goes underground.
Well, in some of the schools like Corowa, they do champion this notion of entrepreneurial for girls type of thing. So it is actually quite good. But we do give them this structure and framework to to work within. So we give them training wheels, so to speak. It's not just like, you know, good luck and let us know how it works out.
And as well as that, we have a committee that we're building, which is a group of girls from each year who are creating content that the marketing team can use.
And it also can be within different parts of the school too. For example, we noticed with Corowa that the art department or somebody like that had their own Facebook page or Instagram, library. So they were out there communicating all on their own, where it wasn't under this overarching key message that everybody should be singing from, the same hymn book type of thing, right? And so we can bring them in, but hey, that's a great idea. What about the art department? Or what about the drama department? What about all these various other parts of the school and bringing them into this?
Which starts to build the SEO.
Yeah, that's right.
So all of a sudden the different areas, the teachers writing articles about nutrition or science or whatever they're writing about in the science section of the website means that the website SEO rankings go up. But it's about having the teachers understand what the heck we're talking about, and once they do, they tend to run with it. And we say it needs to be 500 words, and it needs to do this, and these are your keywords, and this is what we're doing as a group, and and you can really quite quickly pull everyone into line into social media is an important communication tool for our school, and we're doing it good as of now.
And it goes back to what Margot was saying. I know you were talking about the community, you know, globally more here, but you have a community within the school, right? So that's a conversation you can have within your local school. And I know the teachers are going to say, you know, I'm teaching and I'm not grading, I'm teaching and blah, 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 blah. I don't have enough time to do all this stuff. But if you can sort of get a little posse together and everybody's working together, you can, as the proverb says, you can go a lot further. So things to think about.
Actually, at this school, even though none of us in WA are doing it very well, up now, one of the things that we actually did was we don't have a newsletter anymore, we have a news blog. So we actually write blog articles, and one of the things that we've been trying to do in most schools under resource, we have some fantastic interns here that are helping us with nothing, help us do some of the content. But we've found that asking the why do we do something rather than take a photo, what you were talking about before, why do we have that event, and we interview the girls, or we'll do a slideshow, we'll video them, or we try to get some of our teachers to write. It's a hard thing, but we have made inroads. We have Linda Stade, who's been away because you're famous, who writes our Knowing Girls blog. We started with a blog for parenting, but we still have room for improvement with our SEO.
And a really important part of all this as well, I'm biased, I'm a bit of a dad's expert, if there is such a thing, and I'm not really, but it's an old adage maybe of if you build it, they will come sometimes. And sometimes sit back and say, well, the dads aren't really interested in this kind of stuff, they just don't do it. It's true, but if you start speaking to the dads, getting the voices of the dads, saying this is this school's dad's channel, and keep at it, because there's no partnership more lovely than a father and the daughter, or the father and the son.
And it's how too you approach it, because the dads are going to have a skew one way, as to the moms will have a skew another way.
And so that's sort of
it's knowing your audience again, which is like one-on-one type stuff.
And it's really important, I think, to stick with it and to say, look, we really want to communicate with the dads. Again, from a nasty, to turn this lovely idea into a nasty money thing, dads often are the ones that will contribute more in a capital appeal. And if the dad feels more connected, that's a much easier conversation at home to talk about supporting the new gym, because the dad's already across it. And often when it's the school intranet or the school website where the information is, it's sort of, dad's not looking at it, and that's where a lot of the information goes, so he's sort of a bit disconnected. Whereas a Facebook or whatever the thing is pop up, and he'll see it more quickly. So speaking and creating the audience is a really successful way of doing it. Yeah.
First of all, thanks so much for coming all the way from Sydney and coming to WH.
Our pleasure.
Great. Some of us here are from the tertiary sector, so our primary demographic a lot of here in the States of 17 to 20-year-olds. Facebook usage in that age group is declining. So I'm just interested to know where you think the future of that sort of marketing,
It's a great question. You're absolutely right. Even within schools, there's some segments that are really interested in Facebook, and some segments that are interested in Instagram or whatever. Well, LinkedIn is a really great place as well, where a lot of good stuff is done. The truth is, though, I think that the trick is the content will always be the key. The platforms will come and go, Facebook will come up, Instagram will come up, whatever we don't know about will happen next week, and whatever, it will change. But it's effectively the exact same thing that we're trying to say, and it's the same as I was saying in 1995 at Westminster School. This is a great place. Look at this stuff that you're interested in that you didn't know was going on. So I think the truth is each one has its merits, and to understand the merits is really important and speak to them. But also the other thing I mean, in some ways, you've got a lot of an advantage in dealing with that tertiary sector because they have grown up their whole lives with this stuff. So they're across swiping up, and they're across linking to things, and they're across how to use things. And by staying on trend, and I hate that phrase, but if you're staying on trend, you're using the right platform and pushing the same stories anyway, you're going to get your message across. And Facebook wanes and comes back and something else will happen, that'll happen. But if we're always looking for where are the people, and that's what this is. 60 years ago it was the Trading Post or something. Then it was the radio, then it was the TV, and now it's Facebook. And next year it'll be something else. But it's where the people are looking. That's all it is. Where are the people looking and how do I get my message exactly there? Yeah.
When do you cut it off? For instance, like Twitter has 200 people follow that. Do we just,
I think Twitter is a complete and utter waste of time in Australia.
do we just, and I'm shocked, but
Well, you're an American by the sounds of it, or Canadian or
yeah,
something.
I'm shocked, but is there just no life for Twitter in Australia?
Really. I think it's a more academic thing where there's lots of content and links and things like that happen. But the truth is in Australia it's very, 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 very low.
So when do you cut your off?
I'd cut it off. For me, you know what? If I was going to be more effective answer, I'd think about that lower funnel stuff. How much effort's going in and how much is coming out. And if it doesn't meet some kind of test, can it? And don't be afraid. I mean, a lot of you guys don't have Instagram, that's fine. I think it's a mistake, but it's fine.
Does the Twitter help with your SEO? So,
Yep.
like for example, if you had a blog, like we tweet out when there's stuff.
There's
on
there's better ways to do it than that.
I'm not saying the only way, but
It's something. Yeah, you're better off having articles on your website that link out
should do that.
from an SEO perspective rather than putting it on Twitter. You want people
Let's
on your
share it
site
out.
looking
Let's
around.
Share it out there.
Yeah, if it sits on a page where Google can see. And another really big interesting tip that's come up for me with the school that we're working with over there, whatever it is that they're about to rebrand their website. So they're about to chuck out the old one and bring in the new one. Happens for a couple of years. Google, once you kill off a website, Google goes, well, that's the end of that. All the momentum and all the great things that they've done, we'll throw it in the bin. And when you put your new one up, it doesn't carry over to the new website. And not only that, Google don't start counting for 6 months. So not only have you lost your momentum, they go, well, prove yourself first before we start paying attention to your website. So you lose 6 months of SEO. Interesting tip. That something can be managed, no problem, but you need to be aware that it is a problem in order to do something about it. Anyone else? I feel like that, yeah.
Yeah, hi. I'm really not involved in an archivist, but I always look to a master's sometimes
Yeah.
with my content and old photos. And also it's the side of the reverse back where I can sort of equate faces and old names to images we don't know about.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering if I could ask you guys to Instagram brands that you think are doing content quite subtly and in more of a narrative and storytelling sort of way.
You know, my favourite one at the moment is neither of those things in terms of subtle or narrative.
Yeah, I mean, not in your face, more like doing it quite cleverly.
Well, I think a beautiful one,
Yeah.
there's two that I think are really inspirational in terms of how they do it. And they're both ridiculous, and I'm embarrassed to say them. But anyway, one is The Rock, as in Dwayne Johnson, the wrestler, movie star guy. Seriously, really great. And the other one who's, again, I apologise for both these things that I'm about to say. It's not a Kim Kardashian or anything, but it's Will Smith. Will Smith is brilliant in the way that he actually links backwards and forwards between different mediums. And I've put this thing on Instagram. It's a 30-second edit of stuff, and he's voiced over things. Simple, but he'll say the full videos on YouTube or whatever. And of course, it's Will Smith. But in your own communities, this is going to sound ridiculous. I heard myself say it before I said it. In your own communities, you're as well known as Will Smith. Do you know what I mean? That sounds ridiculous, but you know what I mean? Like, you've got the people in your communities know you. and have known you for those long as they've been there. They might not have an accurate picture of what's going on or the detail or the depth, but certainly if you start doing things well, you'll start popping up. And so things like newspaper, you won't believe how many times you put up an interesting thing and a newspaper picks it up. Put up an interesting thing and there's some PR that comes off, shakes out of it, just by the fact you did an interesting post. Archivists are a really great, I'm not just saying this to suck up, it's true, and I'm sucking up, but archivists are a really great partner in all of this because they have got heaps of content that people care about. Old scholars, is that what we say here? It's more Adelaide than Sydney, but archivists are really good people. Finding people, as Joe said, that are maybe the science teachers that have got more to give than what they're given at the moment. You don't need many, you don't need the whole science department, you don't need the whole maths, you need a guy, you need a chick, you need someone who's just going to really push it. And often, more often than not, it's about inspiring them by telling them why you're doing it. And having this kind of a presentation to all the staff and they go, oh, you know what, I could write an article a week. And because now I understand why. The archivists are a great source of someone to work with. They've got heaps of content, heaps of different links and stuff.
Do you have any other questions?
Blokes start walking in with food, everything's dried up, question-wise.
That's food time. So thank you once again both for coming.